please subscribe.
Okay, Christopher Peaks back here today with Brandon Moseley for the BCS State of Alabama podcast. And we have another special guest with us here today, Senator Greg Albritton. Senator, how are you, sir?
Doing well for an old guy. How about you?
Yeah, I feel you, sir. I'm getting there myself. So, Senator, I guess the big news is the gambling bill failed again this year. With this being an off year and, people not, or representatives not having to face their constituents, are we ever going to be able to get this bill passed?
Look, we've been fighting this for 25 years, and we've been close 2 or 3 times. But right now, I don't think there is I think it's clear that the votes are not in the Senate, and that there seems to be a group that has every intent to use every methodology to prevent it from coming up.
Why do you think they want to prevent the people from having a choice to vote on this?
They're afraid of it. That's number one, and they're afraid of the other big mules that don't want it.
Brandon, jump in there.
I'm being as simple and direct as I can in that regard.
If the senators don't want it, and I know there's a lot of opposition in the Senate, wouldn't it be best just to let it die and just not keep coming back to it every year?
That's what we're doing. I'm at this point, I don't think, and I may be tainted. I may be unable to carry it any further. So there's got to be another sponsor. It's gone through 2 or 3, but we'll see how that develops. But at this point, I got other and more things and better things, I think, that I can try to work with. Now, don't get me wrong. I feel strongly that we need to grab this industry. This industry is going to become more of a problem as we leave it alone. We'll have more local CAs, we'll have more illegal gambling, and we'll have more of it occurring all over, especially with sports gaming becoming like it is. But we don't have the resources, and we don't have the legal tools to combat it.
Why not just introduce a simple paper lottery bill that may actually have enough support to pass?
We've done that before. It did not pass. That's number one. And number two, that doesn't resolve the issues with the other 18 or 19, whatever there are, local CAs that authorize it. It doesn't give us any means by which we can actually prosecute anything that's illegal out there, and it doesn't do anything with the sports gaming, nor does the lottery give us enough resources to combat them. Plus, the lottery would be, of all the things that we've talked about, the lottery would be the largest expansion of gaming in the state. It'd be at every crossroads, every place. And with the lottery and the sales of the lottery would come everything else that goes with it.
Senator, do you think that the reason they keep blocking this with the sports gaming is because with so many sports fans in Alabama, that would be sure to pass?
Look, we are cognizant that somewhere around 85% of the population of Alabama wants the opportunity to vote on this matter. Now, only about 70% will vote positive, but 85% want to vote on it.
Senator, in other matters, you're also the sponsor, the Senate sponsor of the general fund legislation. The governor requested $3.7 billion in this year's general fund. We've gone from like a $1.7 billion budget to a $3.7 billion budget in, it seems like 10 or 12 years. Is the state's economy just grown that fast?
It has grown, yes. There hasn't been, to my memory and knowledge, I don't know of any tax increase that's been initiated here. we take in consideration the point that the 1.9 was a low point from the 2008 recession. But yes, we've had a lot of recovery and we've had a lot of growth, both in population and in economic growth. So yeah, we have that. Also keep in mind, though, that the general fund has been, in my mind, strangled for a number of years, constrained, and unable to meet the demands that's out there. And we're trying to recover from some of that.
Senator, I'm sorry, Brandon.
Oh, you recently passed a bill, or I mean, moved a bill that would give the state some more borrowing authority in order to finish the 2 mega prisons. Could you tell us a little bit about that legislation?
Sure. Just talking about that in the vacuum. Yes, we have the bill that would give us the means to finish out both projects that we've already committed to. That's number one. But if you go back to, I think it was 2018, 2019, when we really started trying to find a path to solve the problem that we had with prisons. We have not built a new prison in 50 years. Now, we have taken warehouses and converted them, but we haven't built any prisons. In addition to that, in the last number of years, we've closed 2 prisons, at least 2 prisons, plus some others. So we have an increasing population in prisoners and a decreasing number of beds and facilities. It's imperative that we find a solution to this, and we think we have. Now, there's some initial difficulties, maybe suggest even errors made in the initial estimates that we were given. I mean, in 21, we were told it's going to cost $785 million to build 2 prisons. The final price tag on those are probably going to be $2 billion for both of them, about $1 billion each. And so we were a little bit off. But what we were able to do is we were able to get some of the funding that we had set up for borrowing. We got $500 million that we borrowed, $500 million out of what, $2 billion. And then we were able to come forward and start pulling money from other sources while we had some savings around. And we're able to put a pretty good part from the general fund monies in there. And we even used some of the ARPA money to put in there. And so we got close to getting them all done. This final bill will give us all the resources necessary to complete both full prisons and have enough replacement beds to meet the current demands.
Commissioner Dunn, when he first started this, originally appointed by Robert Bentley, then he was held over by Kay Ivey, came up with those estimates that you could build the 2 mega prisons for $800 million, which was a lot cheaper than doing repairs and maintenance to our existing prisons. Are we regretting that decision now that we found out that no, the 2 new prisons are going to be like 2.2 billion or something?
No, I don't think we're regretting that, and I don't think we should. The aspect, the principle that the costs are cheaper to build new than it is to try to restructure or renovate is not theory. That is a fact for several reasons. Number one, the age of the current structures. Number two, the original design of the current structures. And number three, if we go in to try to renovate the current structures, where are we going to put them anyway? In particular, where we had closures coming in. So no, there's not any second guessing in that regard. Between inflation, between the COVID construction costs, and all those other economic issues that came into play that everybody has suffered. We've just, frankly, from the state's point of view, we have addressed that and taken this matter, and I think we've got it resolved without affecting or afflicting any other agency or any other issues or matters that we have in the state. I think we've done a fairly good job on this.
Senator, mentioning the overcrowding of our prisons, I was reading about somebody the other day. He got killed in prison, and he was in there for theft for something like over $500. Should we look at some of our sentencing guidelines for nonviolent criminals instead of sending them to prison? Is there other options to rehabilitate these people?
We've looked at that many times, and we have restructured those matters. The 3 strikes you're outlaw was, let me rephrase that. So the 3 strikes you're out legislation, which put people away for even smaller crimes, we have revisited that and corrected much of that. Right now in our population, prison population, I may be off a little bit, but not by much. About 85% of the prisoners, inmates that we currently have in state have committed murder of some type. That 15 to 20, well, let me rephrase that. Maybe not murder, manslaughter. There has been a death occurring. Okay. Then we have the property crimes that are there. The 15 to 20% of those, and most of those are not. None of those are drug matters. All of those have to deal with significant, habitual, continual offenders. That just can't deal or live outside in society. So, having said that, though, we have put a large number of resources, both in pardons and paroles, in junior colleges, and in other programs to help facilitate and train those folks that are incarcerated to prepare them to come out for the opportunity to live normally.
I know currently the Justice Department is suing the state, claiming that our, incarceration in an Alabama prison is a cruel and inhumane punishment, thus is unconstitutional. Now that you're building the 2 new prisons and you have, Pam Bondi in there, the Trump administration, who's probably friendlier to a Republican state than what we previously had here. Are you optimistic that with, this bond issue, where we can finish the prisons, that we can get that settle that federal lawsuit?
Well, never be optimistic when you're dealing with a federal court. Okay, that's rule number 1. Number 2, though, is if you look at what we have accomplished, it's been years that we have been under court order to hire 2,000 new COs. It's been years that we've been under court order to do several things, but the court has never taken action against the state to take it over or to do any kind of punitive action. And the reason for that is because the state has actually taken this on, and we are making every effort possible to improve and to get ourselves in the direction of where the court sees that we should go. We're making all kinds of efforts in training for our COs, in reaching out, in recruiting, and in pay. We're doing all of those things, and it's beginning to pay off. It's taken us years to come out of this hole. My thinking is that we're going to continue to improve. The court's going to do what the court's going to do, but we're going to do what we can justifiably and financially accomplish. And I think we've done a good job and a good faith effort to make these places safe for all humans that's inside, not only for the inmates, but principally for the COs that would like to go home at the end of their shift.
Senator, we've seen that with Governor Ivey's bill of, I think in Alabama we all are supportive of our police, but Governor Ivey's bill about Back the Blue Do you think that's going too far, giving them an extra layer of protection?
You know, sometimes it's best to keep my mouth shut. But I'll tell you, there's a group of retired police officers and such in the House that I affectionately refer to as the Cop Caucus. And they are continually bringing forward bills of several every session to improve police matters. I think all of our police officers are being looked after quite well by the representatives in the legislature. And I think we're doing all that we can justifiably do in that regard. As far as protections, the only thing I would suggest, and this is another time when I get myself in trouble, but I'm going to say it. Are y'all familiar with the Camden Rule?
I've heard of that.
The Camden Rule is a judicial decision in Alabama that said that when a policeman or any person goes beyond their responsibility or beyond their job description, then they become personally liable. And that's where many court cases come in. You know what I'm talking about now, I think.
Yes.
Well, I think that's not a bad rule. I would like it applied across the board, i.e., on judges. When they go outside their jurisdiction or they go outside beyond where they should go, I think they should also be liable, just like they've ruled that the cops are. If that rule were applied across the board, I think we'd have less trouble along that line.
Senator, we have a record general fund budget, but we've increased the amount of money for prisons because we sort of need to build the two, we need more COs and we need, new prison facilities. But also there's a big increase in what we're paying for Medicaid.
$268 million this year.
Yeah, which we really don't have control of, since the federal government, they set the rules and we have to provide our match. Is there any effort here or in DC to try to restrain the growth of the cost of Medicaid?
No, man, talk about a Pandora's box. I'm not sure anyone completely understands the Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare system. It is so complicated and so egregious. It's pitiful. When was the last time you went to the hospital and got a bill from the hospital showing the cost? It would take, I haven't found anybody that understands the billing process. Keep in mind that we are dealing with at least a semi, if not a full, socialistic type of healthcare in the United States. When you hit 65, everybody, you have to be on it. You don't have an option. That's it. And then all the other criteria reaches down. The biggest provider of healthcare is government. Because of that, the government has the largest ability to negotiate with providers, hospitals, doctors, pharmacies, and all of that, which means they basically have dictatorial. They have wage and price controls in place there as far as they are concerned. So they can negotiate so that they pay 17% on an average. I may be off a little bit. But whatever that billing is, they're only going to pay 17%, and that's all you're going to get. And they're the last to pay. If there's another insurance out there, somebody else pays, and then I'll pay some of that 17%. What I'm saying there is that 17%, if that were in a private industry, could you sell a product for 17% of the cost? No one can. So what that's done is driven the industry to have to work this from the reverse side. And that is, if I'm going to make money, I've got to figure out what my minimum payment is and try to add to that? Look, I don't know that I understand it. I'm just going through the best way I can. But we have this system that's there. The whole country, hundreds of millions of people are dependent upon this, not only for services, but also for livelihoods. That's one of the reasons we haven't been able to, on the federal side, to repeal Obamacare. It's too ingrained. It's too dependent upon. And yes, you're right. When the states get the bill, just like everybody else, we have to pay it. We don't have any option. Now, this year, the House has sent up a budget that removed $5 million from the $1.1 billion request, I think, that Medicaid had this year. And there was a lot of screaming and hollering about that. And I'm not sure that's going to stick either. However, I am concerned, and I may be wrong, but I think the federal system, the socialist system, is imploding. We can't keep this up. The only option that I see, especially on the local level, is simply to try to put some privatization in this in some way. Hence, I think that was the impetus for the Blue Cross Blue Shield All Health Plan. So unless we find a way to start bringing private industry back in this industry, back into the industry, into medical care services, we're headed down an unsustainable path.
Senator, I remember, I think you were a veteran, a Marine Corps vet, Marine vet or naval or something. Yeah, being an Army veteran, how or if is Governor Ivey's new overhaul of the VA in here in Alabama, is that going to affect me, or is that just a power grab on her behalf?
Neither. I don't think it's either. The aspect, and I'm speaking from my observation and from my experience level, the federal vet system does not work, and when it does work, it works poorly. You never get the full four wheels on the ground. You may get two, maybe three at the most, but that's about it. On the state level, it is not even a functioning entity involved with a VA very much at all. It has been traditionally more of a feel-good aspect, and that's about it. I supported the governor on the point that we needed to bring this into full activity of state government, meaning it had to be brought to the level of cabinet position. It had to be fully involved in government rather than on the sidelines. And rather, most people don't know that there is even a state VA office. So hopefully, the good that I hope will come from this is that the VA and the people being served by it will have a better, more resilient, and more effective state VA advocate. That's my goal, and I believe that's where the governor was trying to get to. All the other matters that blew up in my mind were more emotional and fear than anything else.
Senator, you're in South Alabama, and
the important part.
your Baldwin County got separated from most or part of Mobile County by the federal court. I know there's a case that's similar in Louisiana that's before the Supreme Court. Is there the possibility that we may have to redistrict districts 1 and 2 again, depending on what the Supreme Court ruling is?
I think so. In fact, I think in my redneck mind, I think the districts 1 and 2 were drawn by the wrong people under the wrong conditions a condition different from what the courts had been telling us at the wrong time. I think everything about this is purely unconstitutional. They have no right in regard to this under the Constitution. They have not even the oversight right to do this. They're only using the Civil Rights Act on this. Anyway, I get heated about this. To answer your question, I believe that there's firm, solid foundation constitutionally for the Supreme Court to overrule the lower courts systems and to put back into the authority of the states the way it constitutionally is designed to handle this. In fact, if you look, that's one of the reasons on the national level we have such a non-functioning federal government in the House and the Senate, is because the courts are involved in controlling those matters. Put it back into the state legislatures where it is constitutionally supposed to be, that will resolve itself. We won't have those very, very close margins.
Senator, do you think the courts are legislating from the bench?
Of course, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. And I think it's very plain. And I think the courts know it, and the courts are doing it because they can.
Not to defend the courts, but in the history of mankind, has anybody given up power willingly once you have it?
Yeah, I would suggest that the legislature and the executive have given up power to the courts willingly.
So, is there a way to stop judicial overreach, Senator?
Certainly. It's called the legislative process. Look, district courts and appellate courts are established and governed jurisdictionally and geographically by the legislature, by Congress. And I've already discussed this with our legislators. We need to come in and take, I would suggest we get rid of a few of them. Now, whether you can fire them or not, I don't know. Then you get into life appointment such, but you can give them a job someplace else, working with illegals if you want to. Anyway, the point is that we have the legislative authority to do so. But one thing I found, I went to a conservative aspect of some years ago in Virginia. It had all the national representatives from the nation, every state. And I stood and broached this question then, and this was 10 years ago, and said that the courts, we needed to get control of that jurisdictional matters. The blowback I got nationwide from all those folks was astounding to me. Part of it is because most of the people were there were lawyers and they wanted to be judges. Now that's a part of it, but we have got to correct those difficulties. The country cannot function with 700 district judges telling the military and the other executives what needs to be done, because they will never agree.
Senator, you served in the Navy, prior to, your civilian life. Why are we having so much trouble building ships? It seems like we built like 1,000, 1,500 ships in World War II in like 3.5 years. And we're having a hard time building new ships at the rate that the old ships, are becoming obsolescent.
Resources, and by that I mean we don't have the shipyards anymore. We have been building fewer and fewer and fewer. Even when I was in the Navy, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, we had 200 and some odd ships, just over 200. And if you remember, Secretary Lehman said and Reagan said we're going to get to a 600 ship Navy. We never did. We never did. We got to 593, and then they immediately, as soon as Reagan went out, after Bush got in and the Dems took over, the ships started being decommissioned at record paces. We have got to develop our industrial base in a more broader sense. And thank goodness Mobile is involved with this. We're on the cusp of doing this pretty good in Mobile. But there's many places that used to build ships that don't. We don't have the piers, we don't have the means, we don't have the training. So it's a whole part of infrastructure we have to rebuild, and that's going to take a while.
Senator, I don't want to take up any more of your time today. That's all the questions I had for you.
I'm having fun. Why you cut down on me already?
No, you can keep going. Well, I just know if you had something to do. I can keep going if you want to keep talking. So I got a question for you, Senator. This is kind of a hypothetical. If Senator Tuberville leaves that Senate seat, could we see Greg Albritton get in it?
No.
What about if Barry Moore runs for it? Could we see him get in that congressional race?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Now, look, I tried that before. I got my little tail whooped pretty bad. What's this? Clint Eastwood, says a man's got to know his limitations. I've been taught my limitations a few times.
Senator, the president has slapped, tariffs, massive tariffs on like 180 of our trading partners. Now, here in Alabama, we make a lot of cars, but I mean, whether it's in Detroit or it's in Tuscaloosa or it's in Montgomery County, most of the cars built today have components that are built, not just in another nation, but in like a dozen nations. Are we risking shutting our economy, our manufacturing economy down? Because you slap a 25% tariff on 25% of the components in a new automobile, how expensive do you make that thing?
Well, you raised some good points there, but I'll tell you, love him or hate him, Trump is correct in this matter. We have a circumstance and have had since World War II. We have been subsidizing the planet when it comes to goods and services. Couple that with when we did the NAFTA thing, and most of rural Alabama and rural America died, and industrial America went into hibernation. We have got to bring that back. And to do that, you've got to get the trading on even footing. You've got to put the trading level, call it tariffs or whatever else you want to call it, but we've got to be having equal level playing field. And I think that's one of the things Trump's doing with these tariffs. Yes, we're going to have some, let's say this past week has been a little bit troublesome. And I'm looking forward to the bounce because that will come. I think we're going to have the trading partners know this. The world knows this already. They already know that how they've been taking advantage of us, and they're going to have to adjust to it. Trump told them in his first term, pay your fair share of NATO. They never did. Now we're getting to somewhere. Now with these tariffs, we're going to get the people coming back here. Subaru builds most of its cars here in America. Kia building them here. They are here now. They're going to come in greater numbers. Why? Because we've got the money and we've got the people.
Senator, would you support a Doge team in Alabama?
I am Doge. Look, I've been in this job for 6 years now in the general fund, and every year I've come in and looked for and found agencies where I could kind of restrict the growth. Every year I'd have 2 or 3. That's why I had hearings throughout the year every time, and I'd find where there was places where we needed to trim back the growth at least and redirect some funds another place and things like that. I've done that. The difficulty is, as I have taken and made that, you know how many times I've been able to make it stick? 6 years now. I don't remember how many agencies, but you know how many times I've been stuck? I mean, where I actually made the reduction? Twice. All the others well, came in were put back in, either on the floor of the Senate or in the House, or under pressure from the executive. Cutting and just restricting growth is one of the hardest things you're going to be ever do. And it's needs to be more of. I just need more support of people to think that way.
Is it because we got a lot of rhinos in our legislature and government?
I'm going to say it's because we have the mindset of two things. Number one is easy to do what the executive wants to be done. Is number two is nothing is more home cooking than bringing home the bacon.
Along those same lines, Governor Ivey and then the House Ways and Means General Fund Committee, in which, you know, is your alternative, your partners on the general fund budget, just in the House, removed a number of earmarks in the budget for like 200,000 for the Magic City Classic, 100,000 or something for the Civil Rights Museum. And there was blowback in the Senate. I think Senator Roger Smitherman filibustered the whole Senate for like 90 minutes last week until, you know, promises were made that it's not going to be that bad and we can restore some of that funding. Is there a way to get around that sort of deal? I don't think you want earmarks for your district removed either, but you know, if you're going to get rid of the waste, somebody's waste has to go.
You're correct. But what you saw was legislation in action last week. Even before the Senate got the bill, it was being filibustered. You're correct. Hence, that is an illustration of the difficulties you have, and when you start playing with issue, for lack of a better term, people's perceived money. All right. We're going to have to deal with that. That's part of the tough part of trying to figure out how we're going to deal with it. I commend the House, but I would also say that those cuts that you're talking about there was not removed by the House. Those were what the governor cut out and sent over. Okay. And the purpose of that was trying to the recognition that we don't know where we're going to be, especially next year when it comes down. That's the fear of where we're going to be next year in budget matters. But I'm working on that already to try to figure out how I'm going to move those puzzle pieces around. And yes, I've got to get votes in the Senate. I do. I got to have 18 votes to pass the budget. And don't lay this completely on Roger Smitherman. There's a lot of Republicans that want their earmarks too.
Senator, with the money that we've brought into the budget now, so I think we've seen record funds. I know we've talked about finally eliminating the grocery tax, and are we going to see any type of like rebate to the taxpayers or any kind of cut on state income taxes?
There's discussions of that ongoing now. Yes. Along with the discussions about setting aside monies for retirees, they don't get, you know, they have their defined plans and they want some increases. They don't want just bonuses, they want COLAs. And we have demands, shall I say the cop caucus again, that wants better retirement and they want more pay. Inflation's hit, everyone's going off on those matters. We have, I believe, done a fairly decent job at doing cuts in our taxations. We've cut hundreds of millions of dollars out of that, out of matters such as that, and we've done a pretty good job of putting monies to resources that needed to be funded better and more. And yet we still have more in savings, and we're still better prepared now for any downturn than we've ever been. And we're addressing things. I'll use prisons as an example, but mental health also. We're trying to recover from those dire points where it just died, if you will. So I think we've done a fairly decent job with that. There's mistakes made, and there's difficulties that we continue to have. But overall, Alabama's done fairly well, better than most, in managing our financial house.
Senator, you know me as a reporter, but decades ago, I got out of Auburn with an animal and dairy science degree. I grew up on a small farm, as you know, many of us older Alabamians did. Back then, you know, we had more farms, we had more farmers. In fact, I paid for my college, you know, growing squash. You could go to your small hometown grocer and sell squash out of the back of a pickup truck, or zucchini or tomatoes. You know, a lot of the food we eat. I mean, I can remember when we had dairy farms all over Alabama. And, you know, those vegetable farms, the dairy farms, a lot of the soybean and corn, you know, we don't grow near what we used to grow here in Alabama. We've got more, you know, your Baldwin County is becoming developed. Obviously, Madison's becoming developed, but most of Alabama, where there used to be farms, is now, you know, hunting clubs and timber properties. With the new tariffs that the president put on, do we need to look at somehow growing more of the food that Americans and Alabamians eat here at home? I mean, it's like the shrimp. I mean, we had cool shrimp last night at dinner. That was probably grown in a freshwater pond in Vietnam or Chile or someplace. With the tariffs, do we need to just go back and look at basics and see just how we can get that economy up to the point where we don't have to import as much food?
Yes, we do. And I acknowledge that issue. As far as Alabama agriculture, I think there's three problems that we have. Number one, in my mind, is we have not developed irrigation here in Alabama. And irrigation is why is economical to purchase a cantaloupe here grown in California than it is to grow it here in Alabama and sell it in Alabama, because irrigation is there. You've got to have water when and where you need it. And without irrigation, you don't have that control. That's one problem. I think there's several studies. You, with your farming background, know that with that control in hand, you can increase your production by something like 30 some odd percent. And when you're working on a margin of 10%, that's significant. So that's one thing. The second thing is regulation. The dairies and such are shut down, in my mind, strictly because of federal regulation. The overburdensome of the lagoons and such that's there, the PETA problems and the lawsuits that come in on that, we've got to be able to conduct our business with a freedom of being able to handle it in a way that we can without that burdensome, costly, extremely costly matters that government brings upon us. And then the third is the workforce. We've got to make it, I won't say entertaining, but it's got to become a sense so that people want to do the work. We can't rely on immigrant labor, and we shouldn't rely on the immigrant labor. This is something that in your generation, my generation, we grew up doing anyway. And we need more people able and willing to do that with the knowledge. So those are the three things that's, in my mind, killing agriculture.
Senator, with we've seen the enforcement of ICE and throughout the country right now, and I see these. I guess it's a fear thing showing up. You know, ICE is coming to your city. Do you think that ICE is going too far or not going far enough with the deportations?
I think Mr. Holman is doing a great job, and I'm grateful for it.
Brian, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I didn't know if it cut out.
Senator,
I think he wants
recently
to.
you
Okay,
passed
I think he wants to. I'm sorry.
and the governor signed legislation defining what a woman or a boy or a man or a woman is for legal purposes. You're sort of my age. Did you ever think we would get to a position where this was in doubt?
I think the Book of Revelation made that prediction. I think earlier, a long time ago. Actually, no, I can't imagine. You remember that kid story, the Emperor's New Clothes, or some along that line? That is where we seem to be. Reality becomes the fiction that someone wants to perpetrate. I think that's a fad, though. I think it is I don't think it's long. It cannot stand the shine of light of day. I am more concerned, frankly, as far as societal, is the total. I won't say total, but the apparent discount of the institution of marriage in the country. No one seems to care about it anymore. Not just because of divorce rate, but just married. No one bothers to get married anymore. It is a ceremony that has little meaning. And the institution of the family has been put upon by so many, and particularly the government. It's under siege and it's not holding up well. I'm more concerned as far as that goes societally, rather than these definitions of that you're talking about.
Senator, you mentioned the Book of Revelation about this, and me and Brandon has discussed this. Is this, to me, this is no longer about Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberalism. This is a fight of good versus evil now.
You're correct. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you completely. Yeah.
Okay, because this is satanic, demonic. I mean, it has to be
evil.
Like I said, it's a threat to Western society.
Yeah, it's evil, completely evil. Yeah, it is.
Senator, there's 4 different bills that I'm aware of in various committees, in both houses, dealing with Delta 8 and other of these other synthetic cannabinoids that you can synthesize from, CBD or from hemp. And everywhere I go, somebody's trying to peddle, cannabis products that look like marijuana, but are hemp derived, but do a lot of the same things. Do we need legislation to either ban or regulate this? Because I know some people have brought both.
They have. Can you spell gambling on this? It's the same issue, isn't it? Look, what grass in a glass, okay? That seems to be
Yeah, I mean, there's like
one.
a frog that rides a bicycle and he's got like Delta 9 drinks that you can buy
Exactly,
at a
exactly.
convenience store.
And I've heard it said, and this seems to be the consensus in the legislature, is this stuff has already become so prolific. It's out there so much that we're not going to be able to stamp it out. Our only backstop now is to try to control it, hence the regulation. We have gone so far so fast about this. In our day, we had completely dry counties, and the stores were closed on Sundays. And such. And Wednesday evenings was donated for prayer meetings, and now we have sports activities that take precedence over church on Sundays and every other
I
time.
played all kinds of sports growing up. We never played a game or practiced in any league I was in on Sunday. The other 6 days, yeah, some sports every other day we were either playing or practicing. But now you go past like even parks and very conservative red counties. Hey, there's people playing at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday.
Yeah, I know it exactly, and that's where they prefer. And hence, I think that gets back to the aspect of my comment about the loss of the institution of marriage and of family and of church. Those three institutions are in significant decline because we're too busy gambling on our sports. Sorry.
Senator, do you think that this, because I was talking about the lack of this family and church, and so do you think this has been something that's just happened over time, or is it just when do you think this began? Because like you said, when I was a kid, on Wednesday nights we went to church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, sat around the table with the family, and that seems to be gone today.
I think it began metaphorically with the apple. Look, we've all been. This whole world is supposed to be a trial and a difficulty, and we're supposed to find our way through this morass. But we, as a people, have chosen, just like ancient Israel, to turn away, and until we turn back, we're going to suffer the consequences that come with disobedience.
So it seems that some of this trans stuff really got popping after the gay marriage was allowed in 2014 or 15 or whatever. I mean, how did the federal government take that step and get involved in that? Shouldn't that be the part of the 10th Amendment that this should be left up to the states?
They started doing this, frankly, earlier than that. I discovered when I was working on my marriage bill back in 15, 16, 17, some of the history on this that most people were not aware. And that was that the federal government, different agencies, had set up a methodology so that federal employees, military, and others would be given time off to go to a state that allows same-sex to get married, so that then the feds could start recognize those partners on a beneficiary basis. Did you know that? That was going on about that was going on about 10 years before the Obergefell matter. Okay, I didn't know that either. But frankly, that's one of the guides I used to develop the Alabama law to try to get some protections along that line. So that it was a process. It started, the old adage of boiling the frog and such, except becomes acquiescence, and then putting up with it, and then you accept it. Okay, and that's the same thing. Human nature.
Senator, we touched on sports a little bit earlier. Later today, Auburn's going to be playing in the NCAA basketball tournament. That Auburn team, I don't know what their total NIL is, but those 12 guys are probably making $10 million. Next year's Auburn and Alabama teams are probably making more money than this team. How soon are we going to have NIL in the high schools where, you go ahead and you sign somebody to a NIL deal as a junior in high school?
It's going to be 2 years in the high schools and probably another 2.5 years in junior high. And at that same time, it'll be into the smaller leagues. What you're going to have.
Down to like the youth league? Okay.
Say again?
When you said down to the smaller leagues, you mean like youth ball, like little kids, 12, 13,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they're going to start identifying them. The earlier you identify them, the more money you can make. And that's what it's about. That's the evil with the NIL. Whatever that is, yeah. Name, image, and likeness, NIL, yeah.
How does it change the family dynamic? Has anybody even thought about this when the 16-year-old is by far and away the largest wage earner in the household?
I think you know the answer to that. Significantly. It'll also change it to a point. Again, the family being under siege, and it's going to create almost servitude again, because once you get into this, you're there. And yet you see even now when someone gets injured or they have a bad time or something occurs and they fall away, what happens to them then? They're simply cast aside. I think it's a tragic system. It puts so many, makes so many people the losers and so very few winners.
Do you think they're going to put a cap on this? I mean, because this is just crazy. So it's just going to continue to where it's like in the NFL that they just keep, the salaries just keep going up and up and up. I mean, because we just seen I can't think of his name, the kid that played at Georgia. He just went to the Miami for $10 million.
Exactly. And you look at the universities themselves are complicit in this because they gain money from it. So they become the masters, the new masters.
Interesting.
Senator, I think that's all I've got. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think I've talked my head off. Probably got myself in trouble. Y'all publish this, I may get drawn and quartered again. So,
Senator, thank you for talking to me. I always appreciate your candor and being straightforward as what you are. That's something that's missing in today's politics.
Thank y'all for the opportunity. It's good to see you. Thanks for the questions. Thanks.
Thanks for coming
on.
on.
Let's see, let me hit this.